And Darren here, and we're about to start your Vikings pregame show as we have the Vikings versus the Cowboys on Sunday night in US Bank Stadium. Woohoo! Hey everybody, it's Dave here once again. Also on my side right here, Darren Campbell from the frozen north up in Yellowknife, Canada. How are you doing, Darren?
I'm doing well, Dave. Hopefully, you're doing well too. We're back from a week hiatus. We forgot to tell everybody we weren't going to be around last Saturday, because Dave had to go to the Renaissance event and with his daughter Katie and mingle with all the lords and ladies.
Yep, it was a good time too.
So
Real good time.
yeah, you're telling me. I was checking out the link you provided, and yeah, it looks. I'm not into that sort of medieval kind of stuff, but if I was, that would be the place to go.
Just the eye candy alone would be worth it, Darren. But, all right, it's time to talk about the game we've got coming up at US Bank in prime time, NBC Sunday Night Football. It gives the entire day for Vikings fans like you and me to get lubed up and get loud. We're talking about, might bring you in here. We're talking about the Dallas Cowboys game. And why isn't bada bing right there?
There we go.
Vikings versus
There's no
Cowboys.
Stefano graphics.
Yeah. Give me a second while I pop open another beer. I've just killed one. I see Mary's with us today. We have Michael off of Facebook and Mary off of YouTube. Welcome to the show, you guys.
I would never want to get in the way of you and your beer, Dave. So you just
No,
go ahead and
that could be dangerous.
get that thing cracked open.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, that's
You,
it. I hate to go. Yeah, go ahead, Dave.
Well, I was about to
Getting ahead of
say,
myself.
you gave me this long, massive list of talking points, and we might as well get into them because there are plenty. Um, I do want to start out with the very first thing that you requested. Let me find it here. Ba-da-ba-ba-boom. This is a big game.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yes, I don't want to go. I hate to go Captain Obvious on people, Skull Raymond, but it is a big game. Big game for the Vikings. They've got a at 3-3. They're in a precarious situation because they're right
Hey,
now they're in the
Douglas.
thick of the
Hey,
playoff
Raymond.
race. Very good, but a loss. A loss that takes you to 3-4. It kind of drops you back amongst some of the other dregs. 4-3. It gives you a little bit of breathing room. And for Dallas, they're fighting for not winning the division, which I think is pretty much a foregone conclusion for them right now, with everybody else in the division
In
being
their
5
division.
or worse.
And we'll get to
But
this. We'll get to the standings later in the show. But yes, you are right. This is a big game, and it means a lot.
probably maybe slightly more to us than the Cowboys, but the Cowboys do. I think like any team, you want to get the number one overall seed going into the playoffs, have home field advantage throughout the whole playoffs, and get that week bye. That's what every team in the playoffs is fighting for. And right now, the Cowboys are right there in it, thanks to Arizona losing on Thursday night, that team from Wisconsin winning Thursday night. So they've got a loss. The Cowboys have a loss. Cardinals have a loss.
Yeah,
Rams also only have one loss.
top
So it's
five
kind of
teams are with one loss.
yeah, yeah.
Now,
Tampa Bay as well.
Green Bay, as of today, has played 2 more games than we have. So we still have
Yes.
time to catch up, people. Don't think it's all over. I saw this week, they're 4 games ahead. We've lost. Now, if we win, like I said, they're 2 games ahead. If we win those 2 games, right, we make it just to 2 games, and then we have to play them twice. So it's not over till what the proverbial saying, till the fat lady sings, and she ain't singing yet.
Not yet, but she's getting her voice warmed up.
Now, Michael started out to Dak or not to Dak is the opening question.
Yes.
Are we going to see Dak Prescott or are we going to see Cooper Rush?
Yeah, I really feel that we will see. I think we saw the line on Vegas go. Like the whole line on Vegas had the Cowboys with 2 up. I think they're favored by 2.5, and then it's swung wildly since then. Vegas tends to know things, and so based on the Cowboys are being very coy about this as well. You would expect them to, but I think with Prescott kind of saying, well, it's not just this game; it's about the whole season. Him saying he was sore, or McCarthy saying he was sore yesterday after ramping things up.
Right.
I think that we are going to get Cooper Rush as the quarterback, not Dak Prescott. But the Cowboys are going to look long term here and think that they'd rather give him an extra week of healing and not try to aggravate the calf injury anymore by playing him against a team that has had a pretty vicious pass rush throughout the season. And like that here as Vikings fans, I think that is what I'm expecting to see, and it makes for a very different, I think, game plan both for Dallas and for the Vikings defense if Cooper Rush is in there and not Dak Prescott.
Well, I hope it's relatively similar for our defense. I hope it's just get the front guys to rush as much as possible and meet at the quarterback and get the back guys to defend any sort of passes. Simple stuff, right?
Yeah.
You talked about
a little bit easier, maybe a little bit easier to execute with Rush back there than Prescott, who's a little bit more mobile, a lot more experienced, and a lot more accomplished.
Yeah, he may be, head-wise. It's still going to be tough against that offensive line that Dallas has. Now, you talked
Well,
about the
absolutely.
line switching. When this game opened, Dallas was favored by 2.5. As of this morning, the Vikings are now favored by 3. That's a 5-point swing on just one player. So Vegas has to be convinced Dak will be resting.
Raymond Fry, the other Raymond asked, is Cooper Rush any good? And the answer to that is who knows. He's thrown 3 passes in NFL games. 2017 undrafted free agent, and he's just a big wild card in this. He did play a fair bit in the preseason. I think he threw 21 passes in total. I looked at
He
all
was
those
like, yeah,
passes
like
last night.
51 snaps or something like that. And it's been the same for his whole career. He plays in the preseason and then disappears.
And that would be to be expected. I think that guess who was Tyler Conklin's quarterback the first 3 years of his college career?
I didn't know that.
Cooper Rush. They're both from Central Michigan. And Cooper Rush graduated a year before Conklin did. Conklin was a 2018 draft pick, and Rush was a 2017 not drafted. But because the Cooper Rush was a possibility for starting this game, I looked at, before this last week, I didn't know who the Cowboys' backup quarterback was either, which doesn't say much for me as a football fan. Usually, at least I know who the backup is for most teams. But I looked at his draft profile coming into 2017, and some of the things that Lance Zierlein said at NFL.com was that very smart quarterback, processes coverages and reads the field well, very good pocket awareness and pocket presence, anticipates throws well. The negatives were weak arm and not very mobile. And Zierlein said he had a frumpy body type, which I thought
What the hell's a
funny.
frumpy body type?
Well,
Does it deal with posture? Like he's.
Frumpy was, I take it to be like not ripped, like kind of a
maybe.
little bit of spare tire and that kind of thing. Not your typical kind of athletic look, as if looking like a model for men's underwear is going to make you a better quarterback.
Yeah, well, Exhibit A, remembers that, Tom Brady.
Exactly.
Exhibit
B,
if
you ever saw the
Patriots quarterback
down in the skivvies, down in the Tom Brady's draft combine photo, like that's so famous, where he's down to his shorts and yeah, the guy doesn't have a muscle on him. But anyway, that was the draft profile for Rush coming out of Central Michigan, and looking at his throws against this year in the preseason. I felt that was, mobility wise, he kind of is Kirk Cousins type thing, where he will run if he has to, but he's not going to run unless he has to. And he's not going to outrun anybody, but he will take off. But he's not going to escape anybody in the pocket. And his arm is not the normal bazooka kind of type, missile, projectile type strong arm that most NFL teams want to see their quarterbacks have. His deep balls kind of flutter a bit. They hang up in the air more. And one of the things that Zierlein said in his scouting report of Rush is that he gets away with a lot of throws at Central Michigan, anticipating at the NFL level, some of those are going to get picked off. If Rush is in there tomorrow, I hope that will be the case. I think for the Cowboys, that's the little that we all know about Cooper Rush. That's the few things I found out just looking through the internet this week.
Good. Well, let's go on to our next topic, the Cowboys offense. And I will bring up that slide real quick. Their offense versus our defense. Here's the grades across the board from PFF, as we just explained before, their rankings, Football Outsiders, who do theirs differently, their DVOA rankings, and Elias Sports, who are the ones that give ESPN, CBS, NFL Network, all their numbers. That's your basic box score numbers. They are right there. And, of course, because I have the GMG 2OB graphics over. You cannot see the over-under, but the over-under, if I remember correctly, is about 51.5.
Yeah, offensively,
wrong
the Cowboys
side. That's
have
our
really
offense.
been. Yeah, that's our offense. But
hold on, here we go.
When you
there you go, their offense.
Yeah, their offense, it's good. It's very good. They've they've got the highest. They're the top scoring offense per game right now. They've got the most first downs of anybody in the NFL. They're averaging 34 points a game. On a real roll lately, they haven't in the last 4 games. They haven't scored less than 35 points a game, and even in today's high scoring NFL, that's still pretty impressive. And they got 2 guys, Elliott and Pollard, who average over 5 yards a carry, and Pollard's averaging over 6, or I think he's got around 6 yards per carry. He doesn't carry the ball as much as Zeke, but he's been very effective. You might remember Pollard with that big run last year when Chris Jones did the old leg tackle and let him run for a 40-yard touchdown. They got 3 guys, Lamb, Cooper, and the tight end Schultz, with over 30 catches. And if Prescott's in
Cedric
the game,
Wilson's up there too.
Yeah, Wilson's a little bit of a lesser guy. He's kind of the number 3 guy.
He's the slot
Michael
guy.
Gallup in there. Yeah. But he has to be accounted for too. So a lot of weapons on there. Their offensive line, very good. Tyron Smith is questionable for this game, but yes. I imagine he'll play. And they got Leo Collins back, but it doesn't sound like he's going to play. They'll have Steele over at the right tackle position, but they are a very good offensive line. Prescott, when he's played this year, he's been sacked only 8 times, and so they can hurt you with the run, they can hurt you with the pass. They protect the quarterback well, and they're very, very tough to play. I think play against. I think for the Vikings, like you said, whoever's at quarterback, they got to get after them, make them comfortable. It doesn't mean that they sack them all the time, but they've got to make them get rid of the ball maybe a little earlier than they want, throw off target a little bit, and then Breeland and Dantzler have to have, I think, big games. Mm-hmm. I'm assuming Dantzler is going to be starting at the opposite corner, and that Alexander will remain in the slot. Those 3 guys will be on the field a lot regardless. But really, Dantzler and Breeland have to have very good games. Breeland's been playing much better the last 2-3 games.
Last 3.
Very, very poor play before that. Dantzler is a bit more of a wild card because while I like him because I think he makes plays. He does give up some plays, but he also makes plays, interceptions, pass defense, that sort of thing. But he hasn't played that much this year. When he has played, he's looked pretty good, but the snaps have been limited. So, and he certainly hasn't played against Cooper, 2 wide receivers like Cooper and CeeDee Lamb at this point. Although DK Metcalf and Tyler Lock aren't chopped liver, but these 2 guys are pretty good as well. Good. So very, 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 very tough. I think for the Vikings defensively, that Dallas is going to get some. They're going to get some points, maybe hopefully less if Rush is in the game. But whatever they do, you got to make them earn it, and not have them score quickly, and not let them get out like a 10 to 14 point lead and get us in catch-up mode. And in that case, we're chasing the score. We maybe are not able to use the run game as much as we'd like, and that's a big key. Don't get into a big shootout with them. And you look at those pressures. What I like about the Vikings defensive line is I like Hunter all the time. Was a little quiet in the Carolina game, but they devoted some extra attention to him, as well you should. Griffin's been very, very pleasant surprise to me, just with the amount of his effectiveness in the time that he's been here. I know there's concerns about snap counts for him and not using him too much, but if you're going to not play him, if you're going to play him less than you would like, you need somebody else, DJ Wanham, for instance, and whoever else is the other defensive end. They have to contribute when they're in there, and that's been
Well,
a bit of a problem. That's
it looks
why
like it's
Griffin
going to
is.
be Willikes. Willikes should be called up. I was told he's going to be called up tomorrow from the practice squad. He will get that last position of snaps. We were all hoping Patrick Jones would do it. Patrick Jones is questionable on the Vikings site. He's out on the Dallas site. So I don't expect him to play. It's listed as a knee, popped up Friday, and you never want to see a knee injury pop up anytime during the week. So
No.
most likely it is Willikes that will be that third person in that rotation and probably may get as many snaps as Weatherly did, which is about 8 snaps a game. It's not going to
Yeah.
be too terrible.
No, like I think Weatherly had 9 against Carolina before he got traded. Another guy down there in your graphic, Dalvin Tomlinson. I thought he had a very nice game against Carolina, and he's been coming on a bit more, at least on the pass rush. On the run defense, there's still issues all over the Vikings defensive unit, but I think Dalvin Tomlinson's starting to be. He showed up more, and certainly Armin Watts, who got a ton of playing time against Carolina. We'll see if that holds out this week, but with Michael Pierce out, it probably is going to play a lot.
He's going to
He was
need to
another
because
guy
that rushing game by Dallas is very good. And with a backup quarterback, the one thing they're going to ask him to do the most is hand off the ball.
Oh yeah, I would think if I was Dallas, and I think you would. If Rush is the quarterback, I think that the game plan for them is going to be very similar to what Green Bay did against Arizona Thursday night, which is, you got a very good running game, you got a great offensive line, and you got inexperienced QB. Give it to Zeke, give it to Pollard, see what you get. You're probably not going to get stuffed too often. You're going to get positive yardage. Have Rush get the ball out of his hands quickly, get it to particularly CeeDee Lamb on some wide receiver screens with a couple of blockers out in front of him, and see where that leaves you a lot of times. They probably won't take many deep shots, maybe 1 or 2, but I think that the game plan that Green Bay used against Arizona would be, with Cooper Rush in there, would be the one that I think Dallas would use with the running game they have. Now, can they be as effective doing that with Cooper Rush compared to when that team from Wisconsin has Aaron Rodgers, even though he didn't play all that great either? But still, I think that the things that the Arizona defense was trying to do is impacted by the fact that Rodgers is the guy taking the snaps, right? They didn't get a whole lot of pressure on him, and you just can't take as many chances as a defense when you've got Aaron Rodgers there. Cooper Rush is the quarterback. I think when he does throw, the Vikings are going to probably try to blitz a lot more than they would if Prescott was in the game. I think that they'll try to confuse him as much as they can. Not that you wouldn't do that with any quarterback, but hopefully you'd think it would be a little easier to confuse Rush, who, though he's a smart guy, he hasn't played very much in an NFL game, and certainly he hasn't played much in an NFL game with the players he's playing with. But he does have some great weapons to throw to when he does it. But I think that their game plan with Rush is going to be very similar to what Green Bay was pulled off against Arizona. Mm-hmm. How effective it's going to be, we hope not very effective.
Gotcha. Moving on to our next talking point, the Cowboys' defense is not so good. So let's look at our O versus their defense.
And Football Outsiders disagrees with me on that, but in more of the...
and it's weird
they had them
on how PFF and Football Outsiders has numbers so skewed and different sometimes. But yes, they have theirs not bad.
Yeah, and I think Football Outsiders, it's more, they don't actually grade players and look at tape. No. They're just crunching numbers, right? So
they're crunching team numbers and schedules and strength of power type stuff, and they're looking at it that way.
Yeah,
strength of schedule.
but the Cowboys defense, they haven't been getting a ton of sacks. Their run defense has been, by the numbers, has been uh, pretty good, but the pass defense has given up a lot of yardage. But the thing about the run defense is that what I wonder about those numbers is that in most of the games, the Cowboys have gotten up on the teams they've played and kind of forced their opponents to play from behind, in which case they're not going to run the ball nearly as much as they normally would. I think that might have a little bit something to do with their counting stat, Russian defense
Mm-hmm.
numbers being as good as they are. The Patriots ran pretty effectively against them in the last game, and again with the Vikings running game being it's the run blocking has been an issue this year for us, but they felt that they did pretty well. Carolina 2 weeks ago, it helped that Dalvin Cook was back because he's more elusive and can turn
Mm-hmm.
something that's nothing into something good a lot easier than Alexander Madison. And Cook will have to do that again this week because he'll be a focus of the Dallas defense, just like he's a focus of every opposing defense that faces us. But the really thing that Dallas has done well, of course, is it's down there. You can see in the Elias is the turnovers they've generated. They've
Mm-hmm.
got 11 interceptions, 7 of them from Trevon Diggs, who's I don't know if the Vikings cornerbacks in total probably aren't going to get 7 this year the way things are going. So Diggs is going to lap our team
Oh,
right there.
and if he gets another one, that sets or ties the consecutive game streak record.
But
So hopefully that's not the
I really
case.
the what I've seen and what the numbers tell me is that the Vikings offense should be able to move the ball and score some points uh, against this defense. Now, the thing is, and you were talking about how Dallas is their offense. I think there's 16-point differential in how many points they score at home as opposed to on the
On the
road,
road.
meaning
Mm-hmm.
that they score 16 points less on the road so far this year. The Vikings have kind of been the other way. Like they've scored more on the road this year than they have at home. You know, they had the Cleveland game, the 7-point stinker. They were very listless and got 19 against Detroit. They had 31 against Seattle. That's nice, and we'd like to see a similar kind of point total on Sunday night for them. But they haven't been as explosive at home yet as we would like. But really, I think they'll move the ball. They just have to be careful, take good care of the ball. What's helped the Dallas defense, I think, quite a bit has been the turnovers they've been getting, and that's been reducing the amount of scoring opportunities the opponents had. Sets up your offense as well. They've had a couple of pick
Mm-hmm.
sixes from Trevon Diggs. That's always nice. So ball security is going to be key for the Vikings, and they were a little bit sloppy on that end in Carolina. They had 3 fumbles. They only lost one, but they put 3 on the ground.
And you don't want to
So
put any on the ground.
no, and they got lucky because 2 of the ones that were on the ground were near the sideline
Right.
and got recovered by our guys. But that's not always the case. You know, the Vikings had 3 fumble recoveries against Carolina in that game. It was again that's where or they had 2, but it's where the fumble occurs sometimes is the big key. And we got to have good ball screen in this game. And most of this year, the first 6 games, the Vikings have had good ball security. They haven't turned it over very much. Uh, and that has to continue because you don't want to give the Dallas offense extra shots, especially with less yardage to go to when they get those shots. I think that's going to be a big key.
Yeah, Steven just said whoever doesn't turn over the ball and keeps the penalties low, and that's a good chance. Now, if you think about the Dallas defense, they do have a pass rush. It is
Yep.
decent. There's their top 3 pressure guys, and those are good numbers. Those are good numbers
They
across the
are
board. You have 2 line.
Micah Parsons.
You got a linebacker, a defensive end, and an interior 3 tech.
Now they've been playing Micah Parsons, who's number 11 there in your
Mm-hmm.
in your
And that's
in your
weird.
graphic.
He's
They've
wearing
been
it's that new number system, and
oh
he
yeah,
switched it.
but but
It
they've
was
been
hard finding a
using
jersey with that number or a picture with him with that number.
but they've been using him in the games I've seen more kind of like a
Outside
3-4
linebacker,
like
standing up.
linebacker in a 3-4 rushing, standing up.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes he's got the hand in the ground too. So he's more of a pass rush guy than like a linebacker coverage guy who's getting a lot of tackles. Gregory's their top sack guy. As you see, he's got 22 pressures. He's got 4 sacks. He's their top sack guy. The other dude, can't pronounce his name, but
Oda Zigwa, something like that.
yeah, and they got Dan Quinn as the defensive coordinator, I believe, and he's always back in the Seattle days. He was known for bringing the heat with the Legion of Boom, and he's down there now in Dallas running the defense, and they're not nearly as terrible as they were last year, but they also they've had some guys step up. They got Parsons in the lineup now, which is a nice addition. Trevon Diggs has taken a step. Although Diggs is a guy he's kind of a risk reward dude, right? Like against
Very
the
much.
Patriots, he had that pick six. The next play, he bites hard on a double move from Kendrick Bourne and gives up like a 70-yard touchdown that tied the game and then really swung the momentum there for a little bit. So I think that the Vikings can offensively they can take advantage of his aggressiveness. He wants to get interceptions. He wants to get that 8-1. We've got good receivers who run really good routes. Let's start baiting him into trying to jump stuff, double move him, and then go over the top on him and see if we can get some big plays by taking advantage of his aggressiveness. That would be, I'm sure the Vikings have noticed that. They're going to try that if they get time to do it.
All right, Stephen, you said if we have a question about the boys, good friend of our show, Luke Braun of Locked On Vikings, found out that Quinn has moved from the basic cover 3 that was employed in Seattle and he did down in Atlanta to a cover 1. You guys play a cover 1 more, meaning one high safety, one safety comes in the box, and then everybody else is man on. Is that correct? Because if it is, it could be a long day for you guys. We've got wide receivers that can beat the man-on situations, and I suspect that Mike Zimmer will be targeting that. You're going to come up to the line of scrimmage. Kirk Cousins will look if he's got, say, a corner line 9 yards off of a wide receiver. He's going to audible to a quick screen, throw it that way. Take 3 steps, chuck it, right? And then we go for let the receiver run because he's got a cushion. And if he's one-on-one on the other side or they delay, then it could be just a deep pass, just a smoke route, run a straight down, and he could call those. That will switch to his first read, and he can go. I see you say to Big Nickel, you have Jaron Curse. Jaron Curse is having his best season ever. You have him at safety. We had him at corner, but we played him at the Big Nickel as well. I'm happy for Jaron that he is playing well down there, but he is not unfamiliar to this team.
Not always the great guy at coverage, Jaron, but I liked Curse when he was with the Vikings. He 7th round guy, was on the sidelines, a special teams guy for like 3 years. He did his time, he developed, he got better. Didn't leave on the best of terms from Minnesota. I don't think he was very happy with the amount of playing time and how he was valued by Zimmer. That's kind of how I read it. But he's a guy that's, he can do some things. He can send them rushing the quarterback now and then. He's kind of playing like a big nickel or almost kind of a small linebacker type deal. Just don't ask him to be in man coverage very much.
Right, or to roam in the safety position because that's not his thing. But a lot of people wanted him to stay in Minnesota. We liked him. I had I personally had no issues with him. I like the idea of the big nickel, but I'm glad he's being used. Yes, and these coaches do know each other, Steve. They know each other very, very well. So it's not quite an interdivision game, but it's close.
Both McCarthy and Zimmer make similar conservative play calling decisions
and
when it,
and
when they,
stupid time management decisions.
yeah, and we'll see if that rears its ugly head in this game as well for either team or both.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't be shocking to see both of them make questionable play decisions and down and distance, and and as you say, clock management type decisions as well.
Now let's move on to the third one you wanted to talk about. Oh, I wanted to show before we move on the Vikings O-line rankings. PFF thinks we suck.
They always do. So,
but however, Football Outsiders has the Vikings extremely good for the O-line. They got them second in pass, which is shocking to me, and ninth against the run. I hope that's the case. I don't see it. Now, having Darren in there, it's going to help. They're going to be tested. Darren will get tested this weekend.
Yes, but he was tested last weekend. I think Brian
and he did
Burns
great.
And Hassan Reddick are not poor players by any stretch. Maybe not as good as some people think they are, but I thought Darren held up very well against Carolina, and he's going to have his. I suspect he'll have some shaky, rough outings, but Randy Gregory, if he gets lined up against Randy Gregory, that'll be a nice test for him. He's going to have to face throughout his whole career. He's going to be facing the best pass rushers of each team most of the time. So might as well get used to it, and we might as well see what he's got, because we know what Rashad Hill has got, and that's backup quality stuff.
Yep. Clifford, glad you got your internet back, and Steven brings us into our next subject. Is this game going to come down to the kicker again? Are we going to make it or miss it? Is he going to be a hero or a zero? You wanted to talk about Greg Joseph.
I do, and I will. Thank you, Dave. That's a nice montage of Joseph. I think it sums up things, his season. I think that hasn't been talked about. I haven't seen it talked about a whole lot, but Joseph has missed 4 kicks this year, which doesn't seem like a lot. But to me, I feel that the Vikings yet again, have a kicker problem. And yes, he made that last second kick against Cincinnati, which got us into overtime.
53 or 54 yarder.
Yeah, 54 yarder. Yes, he made the 55 yarder against Detroit with no time left to win it. Another clutch kick. But when you look at the misses he's had, he missed the 37 yarder. Everybody knows that against the Cardinals. Not a chip shot, but close to it. In the Detroit game, the reason he had to kick the 55 yarder along with Madison fumbling was that he missed a 49 yarder a few minutes before that basically would have sealed the game. And that forced him to have to kick the 55 yarder. And against Carolina, he missed a 50-yarder that would have sealed the game again, and then he missed a 47-yarder. He wasn't close on either of them. That would have won it. He's making me. He seems to be most of 3 of his 4 misses have been under 50 yards. So for whatever reason, that 35 to 40, the 30 to 40, 40 plus 40 to 49 yard range is where he's having his trouble. But I don't want. He's a guy. He's making under $800,000 a year, and every game it seems like he is a guy who the game is on the line, and we're asking a guy making $800,000 a year to win the game for us. I don't like that, and I don't want to see that happen again. I'd like to see the guy who's making $31 million be the guy that's the game is in his hands, and Kirk Cousins has done very well in late game situations this year, very well. None of this is on him, but it's just sometimes the Vikings make play calling decisions late in games where they're playing for, and I've said it before, where they're playing for a field goal when they should be playing for a touchdown. I know things can happen when you drop back to pass, and a guy like Cousins who's not great at avoiding the rush. I know it can result in a sack. I know he gets a lot of passes tipped, and sometimes those ones bounce up in the air and could get intercepted. Yeah, sure. But look what's happening when Joseph is being asked to kick game-winning field goals under 50 yards. It ain't good. And the interesting thing is that the Vikings are number one this year in the amount of field goals attempts per game, 2.8. That's number one. Now, that's not such a bad thing. Like the Bills and the Cowboys are 2 and 3. I think they're averaging 2.6 field goal attempts per game. So that a lot of field goal attempts does mean that your offense is moving the ball. That's good. I just feel on the Vikings end of things, we're sometimes settling for field goals late in the games when we need to be scoring a touchdown to put the game away completely, and we don't do that. And I don't know why Zimmer, who doesn't really like kickers and doesn't trust them, is putting a lot of trust into Greg Joseph to win games.
Right.
And particularly with the way he's kicked in these situations this year. Yeah, he made a couple of big kicks, and he's missed 4 big kicks. So I feel that this isn't right now. It's not Dan Bailey territory, but it isn't a whole lot better.
It's not great.
It's not great.
As Minnesota fans, we know there seems to be some sort of curse on the kicker. And if you want to learn about Vikings curses, Purple Insider today had a special podcast they dropped specifically with a curse expert. And they discussed some of the kicking curses in Minnesota and where possibly the Minnesota curse came from. And you'll shake your head when they come to the conclusion. Anyways, and yes, we have problems with kickers. I agree with you. I don't disagree. He's been good, surprisingly good in situations, and other times when we needed him, we haven't had him. And I agree with you. I don't want to have to rely on a kicker to win a game. I want that to be a rare thing. I want us to go out and score 40 points and bury whoever we're playing. That way we don't have to worry about the kicker making a last-minute field goal because we're up by 2 scores.
Yep.
Is that too much to ask? I know with Mike Zimmer it is, but...
Yeah, and it's just this game is... It probably will come down to a field goal, but I don't want it to come down to a field goal. And if the Vikings...
On Wednesday, I called it as if coming down to a field goal. Now, hopefully it doesn't now that Dak isn't playing, but of course, we always play to the competition, so it's going to be close.
Well, you were saying it after the Carolina game, Dave, when I was complaining about the victory on when we messaged each other, and you, I think you nailed it. Was just that, hey Darren, get used to it because this is who we are. We play close games. We can't put teams away. We don't have the killer instinct like Clifford says. However you get that killer instinct, but I think a lot of it has to do with the attitude and the willingness of the coaching staff to take chances and we a lot of times we go conservative when we should we should be aggressive and then we'll be aggressive when we should be maybe a little bit conservative. It almost seems like in the Carolina game. I remember the drive before the one that Joseph missed. He had Cousins took a deep shot. He took 2 deep shots a couple of times to JJ and then to Thielen. And in neither cases were those guys open. But he threw it anyway. That was aggressive. I would have liked to seen him look for somebody somebody to get a first down and keep things rolling instead of trying to chuck it deep. But then on that one where we had a drive, we ran it on 3rd and 8 with Cook. We ran outside, which hadn't been getting any kind of traction all game. Carolina had been stuffing the outside runs. We've been getting our running game had been where we've been making the big gains was through the middle, surprisingly enough. We run wide, we lose yardage. And that was a situation, 3rd and 8. Hey, come on. You've got Thielen, you've got Thielen, who was having a great game.
Osborne.
You've got JJ, who was having a nice game. Osborne was solid. Conklin was getting, some big gains. Somebody's got to be able to get open for a 9 or 10 yard gain there to get a first down and keep things going. But we were looking to settle for a field goal in that situation, and it bit us in the ass, which it often does. I don't know. I don't get
it. It happens.
Clifford, it happens a lot.
Do you have your speakers on, Darren?
I do.
Clifford, there's no 100% yet. They said it's going to be a game time decision, but everything indicates such, and Vegas thinks such. When we went from Cowboys being 2.5-point favorites to now the Vikings are 3-point favorites. So Vegas usually knows its stuff. Should Anthony Barr play on the line? My answer to that is no. I don't mind Anthony Barr rushing. I just don't. He's not a put his hand in the dirt defensive end, outside linebacker type. He does not do well against big linemen. He does well against running backs. He'll blow their doors off every day, but not against big linemen. He needs to be in that odd man where the running back comes and picks him up.
And they really haven't had him do that very much anyway throughout his career. He hasn't really been doing that sort of thing since he played at UCLA. So I think it's a little bit late to have him, teaching all old dog new tricks, or an old dog his old trick, maybe on that one. So Zimmer isn't going to be using him any differently than he already has.
Right. You wanted to talk about the standings. And for folks out there, I know that's hard to see, especially if you're on a small screen. But you can see right now in the NFC, if the NFC ended today, the Vikings are the 7th seed, and they get the final playoff spot. It's a wild card, and they'd go up against, as it sits as of today, this will probably change tomorrow, but as of today, they'd go up against Green Bay, which, of course, we'd relish, because anytime we get to beat Green Bay, especially in Lambeau, is a wonderful thing. Can they stay there? Do you see any team below them? Take the 3-win teams, Atlanta, Chicago, and Carolina. Are any of those 3 teams better than the Vikings?
They aren't, but they also have easier schedules than we do. I think that's really the big thing. Yeah, the Vikings are 3-3. I think they're, I wanted to show the standings there, even though it's tough to read, but you went through it very well. And again, if the season ended today, the Vikings would be in the playoffs. Well, the season doesn't end today, but the point, for me is that this stretch here, starting with Dallas, you play Baltimore next week, then you got that team from Wisconsin, the Chargers, yada yada yada. It's
the gauntlet.
The Viking. It's the gauntlet, and this is where the season is going to be made or lost. And the Vikings, I'm sure in their room, they believe they're better than 3-3. Some of us think that they've gotten what they deserve so far. And their record is more accurate to who they are, but it's all out there for them, Dave, right now. Mm-hmm. If they come out of this stretch going 3-1, 3-2, or 4-1, or 4-2 over the next 5 or 6 games, then they set themselves up for making the playoffs, and they've beaten some really good teams and had some statement games and shown that they can hang with the big boys. They're not just the king of the dipshit teams like Drew Bunning always likes to call them, our buddy. They actually can kill some of the giants. the Vikings are not a giant right now, in my opinion. They're an okay team. On their best day, they can beat some really good teams. On the worst day, they can lose to some really bad teams. Probably not going to get blown out in any of those games, but they're not an elite team right now. But I think
Right.
you have to. An elite team is what it's going to take to get to a Super Bowl. That's what we all want. And this next stretch of games, the Vikings have to start playing like they think they're capable of, and like even I think they're capable of. So, full
Where all
game
three
good.
phases come together for a
Yes,
full
all
game.
three for a full game, not half the game, not one quarter, not two quarters, not three quarters, four fucking quarters.
Hmm.
That's what we're talking about. And if they don't do that, they're going to go through this stretch either 2 or 3 or 1 and 4. And somebody like Atlanta with a much weaker schedule, even though if we played Atlanta at home or away, I think we'd be favored by 3 or more points, and we should probably win those games. But sometimes if you've got a tougher schedule and you don't play good football, you don't play a game in games that if you don't play well in a game that you're going to be an underdog against, like say Baltimore next weekend.
Hmm.
If you don't put in an effort like that team from Wisconsin did on Thursday against Arizona, you're not going to win that game, and your playoff hopes are going to go down the toilet. Our 3 wins are against the 0-7 Lions, the 3-4 Panthers, and the 2-5 Seahawks. Now the Seahawks had Russell Wilson at the time, so that's a little bit different than facing Geno Smith. But as a fellow Canadian likes to sing Shania Twain, that don't impress me much. Those 3 wins, okay? So start impressing me, and the Cowboys game would be particularly if I almost kind of hope that Prescott plays because if we play the Cowboys with Prescott and beat them, that's a statement win. That's a kind of win that can set the team up and get them even more confident going into Baltimore on the road, playing against Lamar Jackson, and then going on the road against Justin Herbert, and on it goes. But if you beat Cooper Rush at home by whatever score, I don't know if that. It's nice to win, better than losing, but I don't know if that's such a great confidence builder. I don't know if that's a statement win for you. And the Vikings haven't had any statement win.
Well,
And I hate those kind of
whoa, 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 whoa.
cliches, but
It depends. Um, uh, you had Courtney Cronin this week said the best way to describe this game or how it should be approached is the quickest team to 40 points. And I think I heard Mike Florio or one of his guests say quickest to 50. That should be the goal. If the Vikings offense racks up points this game and destroys that defense, and Dallas has a good defense, and we get the win, it's still a good game, even though the Dallas offense didn't produce as much against our defense because they had a backup. I want to see us score points. If we outscore them, great. Now, if our defense holds, thanks to Cooper Rush playing, holds them to the Mendoza line, 17 points, oh yeah, I'm going to be happy. I'm going to be pickled or tickled pink. But what I want to see is our offense produce. And if they run up and score 40 points on Dallas, which has a good defense, that is saying something. And that, to me, should be a confidence builder for them, that they can play with the big boys. Because I don't think Dak, even with Dak, that they would do 40 points against the Vikings in U.S. Bank Stadium against our defense. Our defense is too good for that, in my opinion. But, hey, I'm just an old man that likes to drink beer.
this is true, Dave. I'm a great Viking fan too. Yeah, I hear your points. I just, to me, if you beat the having Cooper Rush in as a quarterback, never started in an NFL game in his life, like a regular season game, to have him go on prime time on the road against a pretty decent team. I think that's a tall order to ask him to come through that and play well and do enough to win it for the
Mm-hmm.
Cowboys. And I also think that it's a pretty much easier task for the Vikings defense to shut him down than to shut them down if Prescott's under center. So I think there's a huge asterisk to this win if the Vikings get the win, if Rush is the QB, and I don't think it wouldn't convince me that this team is ready to go to Baltimore on the road in Baltimore and beat Lamar Jackson and the Ravens down there. But if they beat Prescott even at home, then I'm thinking, hey, so things are starting to turn a little bit different around here for the Vikings. Maybe they do have a shot to be a team that matters, that can actually win a few games in the playoffs and be there in the NFC Championship game and compete for it. Right now, I don't feel that way. But if you start beating some of the big dogs, then I feel a lot different than if I'm beating Detroit and barely beating Detroit.
We'll see.
Yes, we will.
With that, it's time to wrap this puppy up. This has been your pregame show on Saturday for tomorrow night's game. And stay tuned after the game, before the final whistle. We usually go up at around the 2-minute warning for Climbing the Pockets, the final score. We've got a special episode planned for everybody. We're going to have the original Climbing the Pocket crew, not only Jason, but we're going to have Miles, Yinka, and Jordan Reed on the show with us. JR was one of the original 4 that formed Climbing the Pocket. He has been with the Draft Network the last 3 years. He's a scout. He is in the business. This week, he just resigned from the Draft Network. There is a special announcement coming tomorrow night, but you've got to watch to find out what it is. And it's going to be even all the better when the Vikings kick some Cowboy ass. Any last words there, Darren?
Well, I'm looking forward to a great game. Happy Halloween to everybody. And I've said enough as it is, so I don't have any final words. But I want to thank Stephen White, who I guess appears to be a Cowboy fan, for coming on here and being a good sport about it and giving us his thoughts on the Cowboys and the game. I thought that was great. And tomorrow night it's going to be fun. I can't imagine it'll be anything but the usual Viking close game where
nail biter, heart attack down to the last 30 seconds.
Yeah.
After they wasted 30 seconds in the first half.
Darren shuts the game off in disgust, because the Cowboys have come back and scored with 2 seconds left to tie the game after we had a 15-point lead or some damn thing like that. And then I can't bear to watch overtime, and then I have to depend on Dave giving me the thumbs up on Facebook Messenger to let me know what happened. Because that's what happened against Kitten in the Carolina game, folks. I was just so pissed after Joseph missed that last field goal that the Vikings gave up that lead. Hey, boys, don't do that to me again, but I know they will.
So, with that, everybody, we want you to continue having a great weekend. Stay safe, stay healthy, enjoy your friends, your family, good food, and by all means, good beverages. And we'll see you tomorrow night. Skol Vikings!
Go Vikings, baby.
Thank you for watching or listening. As always, if you like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. And if you're listening to the podcast, please rate us on your favorite aggregator. Skol, everybody.